welcome back to Final Sector, and we are back after a almighty flurry of a triple header to head to somewhere brand new in not just track form, but really general culture, time of day,
We've
everything
We've never been to Vegas before. We've never been. Formula One's never been.
Even that we have been here before, this is in almost day and night difference.
I
Quite
get
literally,
it.
pardon
Get
the
it.
pun. But yes, we are headed to America again, to Vegas. Sounds weird to say it. I still don't think the media or anyone is still sinking in until we really see cars out there that we're actually there. I mean, it's Vegas. Hey, we've been saying about it. There's a lot of talk going on here, more than any other new weekend, for good reasons, for bad reasons, for all sorts. What do you think? You excited? I don't know if excitement is the word. Interested, I imagine. But are you actually keen? What are you thinking? What are you vibing with?
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it. I don't really know what to think about this whole weekend yet, because a lot of it seems a lot of the hype around it is so generated by Formula One themselves. It's like, how much do you trust the hype around it, and how much is it just fabricated because it's been fabricated by the people who are obviously spending $500 million to get it up and running, and they want to make sure they recoup those costs. Some of the things we'll go into with the track design and the fact that it's at night and the fact that it's going to be very cold, it does present some challenges there. But I'm very tentative. Like I'm not one way or the other, but just sort of interested to see how everything sort of plays out, because it could go either way right now, I feel like. So, yeah.
As a weekend, you've really got to split it in two. I think you got the on track, which there's a lot probably to talk about and could be very different, which either means it could actually be really good or it could be really poor. It's kind of untested, which we'll get into why that is. But then there's all the off track, given that, of course, it is Vegas and not just racing, around or to the side of Vegas. They're using the Vegas Strip, which is pretty amazing that they've, yes, the FIA has a lot of money, but still to sort that out and get that done, it's pretty incredible. So,
there's also that, and apparently I was reading up earlier, and they had to completely rent out that big Las Vegas Sphere thing.
The Sphere. Everyone's saying, what are they going to put on the Sphere?
Yeah, they had to completely rent out that entire Sphere, and basically they had to shut it down because they were racing obviously around it.
Because the track goes right near it, and of course, normal things they have advertisers.
You can't have that during.
They would have said is the deal. If you're racing under it, you're gonna bloody pay for the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of money going into this. Again, it's one of the reasons why I don't know if I can trust all the hype around it just yet. But they are trying. They're trying to go for the the glitz and the glamour, and they're trying to make it like Monaco plus kind of. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do, aren't they? So we'll just have to see how it plays out. I don't know how much we'll see watching it, online or on TV. I feel like to experience the off-track stuff, you kind of just have to be there.
But I think, some tidbits we've seen. I mean, as you say, the track basically is planted in the middle there. There was a lot of faffing about because, the F1 initially went to hotel owners and said, hey, by the way, you've got to pay for all your rooms with us in advance, and then you can sort that out. Otherwise, we'll make it so you can't watch. And then I think most of the hotel owners called their bluff. They said, what the hell are you going to do? These high rises, hundreds of stories tall. What are you just going to climb up the side of our buildings and cover them up? What do you mean? I think sure some people early on might have splashed out on some expensive tickets, but there's a lot of word that even the days leading up to it, there's still plenty of vantage opportunities that are plummeting in relative price.
I saw up to 85% cheaper than when they were first.
Would not surprise me, which would probably still cost you an arm and a leg, but yes, far cheaper than what it would have been. But
I was looking at the cheapest ticket to the venue as well. Keep in mind, how much was it for our 3-day tickets to the Australian Grand Prix? Ours is on the cheaper side, Australian Grand Prix. But to put it into context, the cheapest 3-day ticket, which is not even grandstand, it's standing room only at the Vegas Grand Prix, is $500 for 3 days.
Yeah,
which is 1,000 Australian dollars, and it's I'm not spending that to go sit in 5-degree weather or stand, not even sit. You stand in 5
Yeah,
degree weather.
yeah. Stand
Like,
if you bring a
nah.
camp. Sit if you bring a camp chair and a woolly blanket.
And to
Yes,
watch a
but
bunch
that
of
is a big
cars
thing.
overtake on the straight with DRS.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Who knows how good it actually is to be their trackside. But no, as you say, we have actually been here before in the legendary Caesar's Palace parking lot, which was known as a Grand Prix. I think if you go back and Google those, you'll see how much F1 has changed since we have races literally that's like styrofoam blocks in a car park mix up an F1 circuit, and yet that arguably still had more viewers and interest then than it did now. It's quite incredible. But yes, the big difference is here, majority of the events, I don't know if all of them are, but majority are basically at the full night. And given that Vegas is basically built in a desert, and the deserts in America, although hot during the day, get absolutely freezing during the night. And I don't know when was the last time, if ever, we've had a race that's going to be this cold. Literally in the near... It's just above the zeros.
The closest one that people were comparing was it the Eiffel Grand Prix in 2020? It was very, very cold that weekend as well, like similar temperatures, and it was apparently like driving on ice. The difference was that was during the day when the sun could sort of heat up the track.
There was still some sun there, so the tarmac could still generate some track temp even if the air temp was cool. But as you say here, that track's going to be very cold. Who knows what the surface is going to be like? They've apparently redone it all, but we've seen in the past, a la Turkey, that a redone track could actually be chaos. So, I mean, who knows? That's the big thing heading into it. Who knows? Of course, it being cold doesn't mean that cars are going to be able to run far better because the cooling's better, or does the coldness actually bring other issues? Does it mean that tires just don't get any heat and then the cars are in absolute misery? Does it mean brakes don't get heat? There's probably, you could look at some analysis out there. I haven't done too much digging, maybe because it's exciting to be a bit in the dark, but...
I did a little bit. Well, actually, I did quite a lot.
Yeah.
I say a little bit. Even Pirelli themselves, like, but this is all tire.
I saw Pirelli almost go like, we're crossing our fingers a tiny bit because we've done our best, but... Yeah, this isn't what we designed for.
Apparently, all their simulations are based on Baku, which I guess makes a lot of sense with that stupid long straight, which apparently even down the Baku straight, the tire temp drops like 30 degrees or something just from the start to the end of the straight. I believe the Las Vegas one is longer, and there's like 3 really, really long ones, all into pretty hard braking zones. Yeah, so they've got the softest compounds, but even then, they're just sitting there like, we've got absolutely no idea how it's going to work. Because it is so cold, and because you've got these really, really long straights, it's going to heat the core of the tire quite a lot, but the surface temperatures are just going to like absolutely plummet. And what that does is that it introduces oversteer and understeer, which then if you start to slide the tires, then you start to get graining. It's so hard to know, like you say, because we haven't really had something like this with temperatures this cold, with the straights basically cooling these tires and cooling the brakes and all this on a brand new smooth asphalt surface as well. It's like not rubbered in.
And the layout itself is also pretty funky when you look at it. It's a pretty funky, wacky layout we got here. It's an upside down pig, yes.
It's the spider pig.
Yes, it has like a few features. It has like a start-finish straight where the grid starts on a curve, so cars will be starting on the grid on a little curve. A little rundown to T1, not too long, but there are 2 DRS zones. Probably both of them will be quite favorable here. Again, who knows how well cars can follow? I mean, there's not that many twisty sections. It almost,
it's very Monza. Like, I would be very surprised if teams don't bring like Monza spec downforce for this, because it's a lot of long straights and like hard braking zones and slow corners, and that's Monza. I would expect a lot of Monza spec cars here. There's
only like 2 medium speed corners that you reasonably think, like T3 and T6. They've got a few others that are wider, but they seem so wide you don't need any downforce from them, so it doesn't matter. And the tight stuff is just tight stuff anyway. Look, I think what we're going to have is similar to when we had the first year in Baku. It could be one where the first year everyone's really safe and whatever, and it's really boring. But then, following up with that, it could be really exciting. We're not going to know till we head here, right? I mean, it could be similar to Qatar. We're heading into it. Everyone thinks everything is,
yeah,
whatever, and then we come out of it going, what the hell was that? How did no one see this? I feel like this could be bring up the same thing. Ferrari are bringing a special livery here. They unveiled it quite early, I think, not that long after Brazil, which I didn't see if it was a specific, like they were trying to do a throwback per se, but they're basically just like,
it's like a nod to their like 70s Ferraris era of cars with the like white front and rear wing and
so they've kind of just gone to like a white, red with a bit of the black. Mainly the white and red is what sticks out. So I wouldn't be surprised if some other cars turned up with some minor things, given, hey, they want to get in with the publicity and such. You're probably going to see a bunch of new sponsors there. That's not going to surprise me either, right? It's Tuesday night as it is right here for us, but the drivers are already going to be in media hell there. They're going to have, so many commitments and press and everything. Because even for the teams, it is a big market, and they're going to have, they probably are going to have a global spotlight on them because everyone, in general is going to be going, what the hell is this? I remember when this was announced, and I saw a few people on Twitter in the Hearthstone gaming community, just streamers that saw it announced, and they were like, hey, should we just go to this? Like, this looks, like, what the hell, So it's news to people. They're like, this is a strange way to do it. Apparently, there was a lot of residents which apparently are actually really unhappy with this. I think the fact that, they say even for the whole area, there's certain like roads and infrastructure that's need upgraded for ages. And of course, the F1's mainly going in and doing the bits where it needs, but some residents are almost saying it makes things worse because now like half of the stuff is upgraded and half the stuff is dilapidated, and it's just going to look like an awful mix when the F1 isn't there. And you can imagine that the impact it's had. I think traffic in an area like this day to day is normally really bad, and they said they had some sort of freeway closure to upgrade it, and then they've had to close further roads because of this. And apparently it's like if you work there, like it's impossible to get in. Like you just give up for like these last few weeks because of how much impact it has. And of course, they're not getting compensated or anything for that. So, maybe those are the people that aren't flying in that are spending the tickets. The actual general workers there, the locals, apparently, they're not happy with how this has been handled. But unfortunately, the little people are the ones that are going to get stuffed over with something like this, right?
You'd expect the first year to be the hardest as they're setting up, particularly like they've got their like the pit area. I think is like that's an actual facility that's going to stay there. It's not like a tear down sort of thing. So
correct.
Like a lot of the infrastructure will be there for what is it, 10 years we're going here. You'd expect years to follow that. It won't take nearly as much closures to get it all set up and taken down. So maybe it's just that sort of first year growing pains that's just the way it is.
But they did announce that, hey, that classic trip where you go to Vegas, you get drunk, you propose to your girlfriend, and you get married. Well, now you, on the F1 paddock, can get married at the F1 paddock race to the altar. That's right. There's an official area in the paddock you can get eloped and...
I physically groaned when I saw this pop up on my feed. I'm like,
I was not sure how much they'd buy into this, and when I saw this, I went, yeah, they're buying into it. They're going the full margin.
I'm gonna cringe just reading this. It's
Race to the Altar.
Called Race to the Altar, and there was a sign behind that said "Lights Out and Together We Go," and I'm just like, no.
And there's an F1 car wing with the "Just Married" on the back of it. You can get a photo of as well.
I hate it.
They've also
so
the one
much.
thing I do like, these are little things I like. For a lot of the curbs, they actually have them painted in the sequencing colors with the card suites, the spades or whatever printed on them as well. See, that's some cool flair. Like that's some neat little flair you're putting on there. Yeah, they definitely are buying into it, and of course they are, right? They've obviously had to spend probably more on this event than any other in the entire year. So they're going to go all out to generate something here and give it their all, right?
Yeah.
You only get to do your first race like this once. I think Verstappen was also quoted in saying that he's done a bit of racing on the sim on this, particularly in a few games. And he said that it's hard is basically what he said. I think, he basically said he was bouncing off of walls to begin with. I doubt that's because of a skill thing. It's probably more, if when you try a new track, sometimes you're suddenly off in the gravel because a corner just doesn't go where you expect. And I feel like this is the sort of circuit where if you're going in blind, it just goes where it wants and it doesn't really feel fluid. And I think looking at the trap mat, that's the kind of impression you get. So, it's rapid. Gonna have to be rapid for the drivers to learn here. Thank God it's not a sprint weekend. Otherwise, that would just be
there's no
icing
way
on the cake.
I think it could, if they stick with sprints. I think sort of year 3, year 4 of Vegas, they could absolutely look at this
be targeting
and
this for
milking
sure.
that. But year 1, particularly with everything with how they need to set up the cars and they need to get used. They need to like rubber in the track, and they need to get used to those cold conditions and figure out what the hell the tires are doing. They're not going to have one practice session. That would be so irresponsible.
Nah, it's not going to happen. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the other couple of notes I had is the thing that I saw pop up is that the pit stop strategy could actually be interesting, despite the fact that it's like I'm sort of half expecting a one stop, like sort of soft medium, because the degradation I don't expect to be too high. The graining, obviously, I'm not too sure. Like it's sort of a wait and see.
And
kind
if
of
tires
thing,
are cold, well, it depends.
That's what
If
I
tires
mean.
are cold, they may not wear as much, but then you may need to push them to heat them up.
Yeah.
But then that pushing them could be the thing that wears them, right?
Potentially, yeah. But the pit stops are interesting in that regard, in that because tire warm up is going to be so hard. Like pit stop strategy, I don't know if an undercut or an overcut's going to be the way to go. Like an overcut feels like it could be potentially quite
feels
strong.
like both. It feels like you've got to be on your toes, and
it kind of
I
don't. If you've watched a lot of like F2 or F3, it feels like when they pit for tires and they come out in that first lap, they are just like absolutely nowhere because the tires are just so cold because they don't have tire blankets. I don't believe. Yeah, it's gonna. I feel like it could be sort of pushing towards that, where that first out lap is like you just have to spend a lot of time. If you get put into traffic and you're trying to like heat up your tires, then
it'll be a big thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the other thing I did see, I don't know how much of this is just sort of manufactured or not, but the pit exit could pose some issues as well. It's on the hairpin of turn 1 on the inside. So because the natural racing line sort of, you want to take an apex, it seems like the pit exit line, like the pit line is like, you're probably going to be crossing the pit exit line to take the apex. And if you've got cars coming out of the pits or cars on cold tires especially, and like coming around a hairpin,
they could slide out and
slide
then,
out.
Who knows? Yeah.
It's something to keep an eye on at least. But yeah, it's hard to say again how much of an effect it will have until we see it.
It could be one as well for the backing up during qualifying. You imagine it might be a tricky one because that lead out of 16 is so long. People might be trying to.
I'm expecting a couple of warm-up laps, and I'm expecting multiple fast laps on one tire as well. If they're not
that could actually make qualifying pretty tricky because certain cars like that a lot better than others.
Like I know even the Red Bull, like they tend to have trouble firing up their tires right away, which we've obviously seen them not quite as close in qualifying on the very first laps of their stint.
So you'll have a few laps to sort yourself out with that. Yeah, good point. And again, no historical data, so
who knows?
It's not like they've got something to rely upon, even if it is already tricky.
Yep.
So
yeah, exactly. So I think qualifying is very, very interesting, and I think this track is going to favour those cars that normally are quite hard on their tyres, particularly if they want to qualify well. I think they could do very, very well here. I'm thinking, like your Ferrari and your Haas and even McLaren to an extent, I expect to probably be quite strong here because they'll be able to fire up those tyres a lot quicker than others.
I did see a few other small notes, apparently for Haas, although they've seen some improvements from their car, they apparently don't really understand it, so they're taking the improvements basically off of Hulkenberg's car. I imagine it's sort of like a mini end. We've got to compare his car to Magnussen's car to
Incorrect. Apparently that's not why they're doing it. Yeah. So
go on.
The reason they're going with the split aero packages is because Hulkenberg is like, I like the old aero package. I want the old aero package.
Oh, okay.
So it's literally like everything I've seen is like it's straight up down to preference.
That's interesting. Okay.
Magnussen has the new aero package and Hulkenberg has the old one just because it's what they prefer. And it's actually something I did see in I don't know if it was after Brazil or if it was after Mexico, where Hulkenberg came out and said, yeah, he was just not a fan of the upgrades that they took. So I think it was after the US Grand Prix, right? He was like, yeah, he just wasn't happy with how it was performing. So
it's strange because I think from a performance perspective, I think from a strategy side, it's let them down what it hasn't seen. But in general, even from the US Grand Prix where they started near the back, they seem to have decent-ish pace compared to when normally they just fall right to the back. So it's curious whether there's other things going on and it's not actually because of the upgrades, or whether, maybe Hulk's just like, this is a living nightmare to drive. I can't keep doing this. I need to, thinks he's going to do more going back. Maybe that's why they think they're qualifying so poor and they can't even start near the top. So he's like, well, there's no point in having a good race car if we can't qualify. It'll be interesting to see. I imagine, look, they're kind of in that fight-ish near the back, but obviously both drivers are going, we don't think we're going to catch AlphaTauri or Williams at any rate unless we try something.
Yep.
And bigger picture, what are we doing for next year? We need to obviously do something now because decisions are going to be locked in for next year.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a mix of things. Obviously they're not happy is clear. So yeah, this is obviously a decision to try and still get something out of the track time they have left for the year. And allegedly AlphaTauri are still gonna bring something to their car from what I saw.
I didn't
allegedly they're still got a final floor to come, I saw. They said they're very happy, of course, with the updates to the car. I think their biggest improvement I saw was actually in Singapore when the big changes that they brought in suspension that basically Red Bull had added in earlier in the year. So I saw that as a passing note before. I guess I didn't look at it in too detail, but it was from a fairly credible journalist. So obviously we talked about it in our Brazil recap, where debrief, sorry.
Where it's all the same word.
Where they have a decent chance to get that P7, but they could also throw it away. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually throwing everything at it to try and get that P7.
Especially here where you expect Williams to be quite strong. So
yes. So yes. But we can get into that. I guess we could now have to talk about who's going to be strong and who's going to be weak. This is especially tricky, not just because of everything we talked about with the uniqueness of this track, but also that Brazil seemed to... Every team acted different than they have for the last half a year, with like a fast Aston Martin, a Mercedes that couldn't do anything, Ferrari power units that seem to just be failing on every customer and parent car.
The good old days.
Yes. Is Alonso back, P2? Is, Checo back in it? Even he suddenly showed that he's got it. If it wasn't hard enough to predict, everything's still in it. I guess we do need to recap. So you did go last weekend out for your Max off prediction, which I think was still a fair one to go for, but he still ended up proving us wrong.
And Mercedes let me down, so...
Yes, they
quite
did,
severely.
but then you did get the Lando for P2, which kind of saved your grace a bit, so that was positive. So
yes, I'm lucky I didn't go the Lando win like I was sort of tossing up between.
Yeah.
So that would have been bad.
Indeed. So it basically meant that I gained half a point over you, so your lead is still over 1.5. So
it's a good result.
It'll be 36.5 to 38. So it's still very close. Do I try to gamble here because there's only 2 events?
I get it.
There's technically
Vegas.
there's technically 5 points of Grand Prix up for grabs if you nail it all somehow. So it could be anyone's game, but I don't know what I'm doing here. I think you were mulling a bit, and I kind of I think I just went with my gut. That's when it's worked the best. So that's what I've gone for. But I guess we do have to go for a random place. Yes. I was trying to think on the fly without overthinking it if there was like a fun thing we could do, but then I couldn't.
You're just trying to get more points.
Come up with anything.
Stop it. Leave it for the final race.
I didn't think about that until just then. That yes, it does make it seem like I'm getting more opportunity. I was going to say like, what place will Albon come? Because I think that's hard. But then, when we think about that separate, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think Williams will be strong here as a side thing? Maybe that's giving away your predictions.
I think they could be quite strong. I think I could see double points. I don't think podiums.
I'd put my money on that.
Yeah, like Sargent was P11 last race. He's been very close to points more recently. Like his form towards the back end of the season is sort of more what people expect of him. In a race where I expect him to be strong, if he's that close to points now, I'd expect him to be, 9th or 10th for sure. So, but again, who knows with this season? They could be right at the back for reasons. So
exactly. But the other position that we will need to guess, I don't know how many times we've got this one. It's P6.
Nah, do another one. I don't want to do P6 because I'm just going to pick a Ferrari.
All right. P8. There you go. P8. Okay, that makes it a little more interesting.
You need to.
That's a much better number. P6 is just pick a Ferrari.
You need to use. You need to use a different random number generator.
Yeah, I've got
it ain't
it
no random.
Clearly, it's giving me that one or P19. Yeah. P8. Oh.
Sonoda.
That's a good bet. I'm either gonna go a Ricardo or an Albon.
Yeah, I considered both of them as well.
No, I'll go Albon. I'll go a different team.
Okay. I think he could be higher, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think so. But then I think if what we saw from Brazil is that those top even 5 teams seem to be pretty consistent now.
Yeah.
They might P8 might be like the highest of any non-top team contender, but it depends how good you think any of those teams will be here. I don't know. We'll have to get into it. Yep. Predictions. I don't really know where to start with mine.
Max P1, I'm just going to say.
We normally go P1. Yeah, okay, max P1. Yeah, I still think with everything against it.
Fantastic.
Let's be real. He's going to be the most out of any driver to likely nail it. I mean, yes, other drivers like Lewis and like Alonso are going to be strong, but it's still by de facto the best car.
Yep.
You'd think in an unknown kind of format, that car seems like they always seem to find a setup when other teams struggle. It's only like one race this year they've really struggled with the setup. Like maybe you could draw an akin to say, hey, this is like a Singapore. It's like in an skewed way, sure, but it'd still be hard to bet against it.
I think qualifying they might not be quickest though. Like I think they could struggle. Not struggle as in like won't make Q3, but like struggle as in I think there could be 2 or 3 drivers that are right on his
They could
tail.
bet and just focus on a safe race car because I guess it looks like it's going to be so easy to pass if you've got a good car like they do. You know, they could just say, let's just take it easy through a good race car. If some others want to spike it in quality, good for them. We'll then prove what we always do and move through easily during the race. So you could also see that coming through, right?
Yeah, for sure.
For P3, let's do your P.
Oh, I was gonna wait for you because I've got 3 or 4 permutations.
Okay.
And I don't want to. If one seems close to yours, then I'm just gonna go something a bit different. So.
Something else. Okay. I have gone back to old P3 faithful, I guess. Mr. Number 2 Red Bull, Mr. Checo Perez.
All right.
I think 2 parts. Part 1, as I just mentioned, I think that Red Bull car will be strong enough. Now, that's not always been enough for him to be up there. But I did mention heading into Brazil that it sounded like he was on a bit of an upward trend. And I think he kind of showed a bit of that spirit there. And really, if you consider if he was on the same sort of pace fighting Alonso here, you feel like he would have had a much easier chance to get past at a circuit like this. But I'm not saying that I'm necessarily redeeming myself here and going, oh, I've been his fan since day one. I'm well aware that I haven't majorly renounced my fandom for him. And I'm not just going to jump back on that, pretend that I wasn't not believing for a moment. But yeah, I think I said it. I think actually he could be in with a shout here. Is it just because it's straight central? Maybe, but let's go Checo.
Yep. I guess I do have Perez in my top 3. I'm going to say he's going to be P2.
Okay.
So, again, his upturn of form is definitely part of that. And I look back at the last 2 races, he got P2 to Max, and they were Spa and Monza, which both have fuck-off long straights. In which he can overtake, and this was also.
And let's be real, at Mexico, he probably would have been.
He probably would have been P2. Yes, exactly. So I think that he, regardless of how far he starts back, as long as he makes Q3, which you'd want to hope he does. As long as he makes Q3, I expect him to be P2. So yeah.
There you go. I was touting that I've come back to the fandom, and then you've just gone and usurped me anyway. So there you go.
Yep.
Fake fan, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you won't have.
The flag has been well and truly put in the garage.
You've given it away, and I'll be here to every time you try and take it back.
You'll turn up in our debrief and check out Bears shirts.
Knock the flag out of your hand. Yeah. No.
Yes. So for my P2. I think for no other reason that I also think this driver's on such a surge, and I think on a difficult weekend, he probably will be strong. And just because he was so strong in Brazil, I think I've got to give it to Mr. Lando Norris.
Yeah.
I think that's all there is. I think that team has been decent at setting up their cars recently. We used to think at the start of the year or middle of the year they were only good at a certain circuit, but then we've shown they can be very adaptable, and I think you need to be adaptable here.
Yep.
Still don't think they're as strong as the Red Bull, but that's all I thought of. That's why I pretty quickly went, this top 3 looks good. Not going to overthink it. That's what I've got.
Fair.
But have you gone someone random in P3, or you just flipped the switch?
Well, I had 2 drivers. Norris was one of them. Surprise, surprise.
Was?
The other one I had, and everything about this track screams Ferrari. It feels like they should just be strong, right? Like the straights, the fact that they've got high tire wear.
In qualifying or in the race?
I think both. Again, because they have such high tire wear, they can fire up those tires really well. But also means they could qualify quite high. We've seen, Leclerc quite high up in qualifying, even at tracks where they shouldn't be, like Brazil, where he qualified very high before getting a DNS. We'll ignore that.
Yeah, and they did do well in Mexico.
They did as well. I'm going to say Leclerc. I'll say he's P3.
Nice.
Just because I want to make it a bit interesting. So,
good on you.
But I hope for Ferrari's sake they sort of get a little bit of a fight back. But I just think it just feels like a Ferrari track with all the characteristics of their car. They should do well here. So, and I think Leclerc probably just has the edge at the moment over Sainz, but it's marginal. So, yeah.
I like it. I think that could be a call that could win the season for you. That's that type of call it is.
No, Norris in the top 3 though is making my predictions look a little silly. But
I know, but then it's like, then who you take out anyone, then you just go, it's hard. It is hard.
Yep.
So yes, I didn't have anything else to mention. Did we cover everything on your side?
That was it. The only other thing I had is that this race has the potential to be the first ever to finish on a different day than it started, which I thought was a neat little tidbit.
Yes.
Because it starts at 10 p.m.
They're starting so late locally,
Yeah, 10 p.m. So if it goes longer than 2 hours, then they're going to start on a Saturday and finish on a Sunday. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of a neat detail. So
it's interesting the discussion on that start time, because of course it's good for us, but then normally any race starting for us is for other reasons. It's not because they want to cater to this market, or normally it's the EU or the US. It's ironic that most of the rest of the US, of course, this is an absolutely horrible time for them to watch it, because they're either further into the night or it's still nighttime for them. And for Europe, it's like 4 or 5 a.m. as well. So it's horrible. So everyone's like, who is this actually marketing towards? And of course, they're all saying, well, it's for Vegas. It's for the residents that are out there gambling and partying to watch something at night. It's just for Vegas and for Australians.
Yeah,
hey!
It just worked for us. Yeah, they literally. To be fair, they did. There was some comments I saw that said even if they had it at like say 8:30 local time, that would have been even worse for like UK and Europeans. So
it would have been like 2 a.m., 1 a.m.
Exactly, yeah. So having it sort of later means that it's like in Europe, I think it starts 6 a.m. Maybe the qualifying is 6 a.m., but it's like, maybe race. But yeah, for UK,
I think they said bad. 5:30 or 5 or something was lights out when I saw the post there.
Right,
so.
yeah, okay.
It's like, look, if you want to get up early, also it's going to be still Sunday morning for them, so also they're not getting up on their work day to see it as well. So you can see how it's not that bad, but wouldn't be surprised if they review it and completely turn the cloth for next year. As I say, I think this will be one where not only the race itself is reviewed in detail and there'll be a lot of stories from it, but yes, everything around it, I'm sure there'll be plenty of information to look at. But it keeps it interesting. We've been counting down to this one since I think the start of the year, so it's
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting. It should be fun. Do let us know who you think, at listeners at home, wherever you are, who you think will be strong, who you think will be weak. Anything we might have missed that you've seen pop up. I am sure that the news will come in thick and fast until the first session starts. But as I say, we'll be sure to come back afterwards to give you all the highlights and everything in hopefully a less than 3-hour package. But we'll see how we do.
No promises.
Yeah. But until then, enjoy the weekend and take care of yourselves. We're out.
Bye-bye.